Today we're going to be doing a cow embroidery. So here's our pattern. So the first thing we're going to want to do is to get our freezer paper and trace up the outlines that we want to do. So we're going to concentrate on the main lines, so where we've got colour changes. So we want to go around the whole shape first, so horns and everything. And then you want to concentrate on these. This is a black area, so black, black and black, and just that tip on the ear. And then we've got the two horns, and we're going to do those in a cream. Everything else is going to be white. We're not going to worry about the eye, and we don't need to bother tracing all these little details there, just to help with the embroidery afterwards. Okay, so here's one I prepared earlier. And so freeze paper, so you can see there, that's all I've bothered tracing out. Try and trace as accurate as you can. I've maybe not traced as terribly accurately. So I've not bothered here. You can see I've not bothered tracing the ear detail because it doesn't matter. And on your freezer paper, there is a matte side and there is a shiny side. You want to draw on the matte side. Now, for me, I'm using batiks, and there isn't really a right or wrong side of batiks. But if you're using fabrics which have got a very, obvious right or wrong, then when we press this onto our fabric, we're going to press it onto the front of the fabric, so the right side. Otherwise, you're going to find that your cow is going to be facing the other direction. If you want your cow to face the other direction, then you want to do it the other way around. Okay, so fabrics. These are the fabrics I've picked. We have a white, a cream, and a grey black. And I've picked this nice one rather than picking one which is too uniform black. I've picked this one that's got some nice patterns in it. I'm not going to worry about pink for like ears and around the nose and stuff, because we're going to embroider them in, because really it's quite detailed, and we won't, by the time you've sewn down a little bit of fabric, it won't be worth the bother. For the background, I've picked a green. I think this is Kona Springtime. I like the Kona cottons. Okay. And cotton wise, I'm not quite, because I've not made this one before, I'm not quite sure what cottons I'm going to want at this point. So I've picked out, let me just check you can see those. Yep. So I picked out all these. So I've gone for a nice variegated grey. So that's a King Tut Superior Threads, 902 it says. And then I've got a couple of Coats Moons. So, well, I think that one's Coats Moons, maybe not. Anyway, I've got a light brown, a light grey. This is the brown that I always use for outlining, which is Coats Moons colour 242. So I think it's not too dark. It's not as harsh as using black for outlining. And then I've also got this one, which is, I don't know if it looks black, but it isn't. It's a very dark brown, and I'm going to use that for doing some of the eye detail. And also if I need something to kind of show up a little bit more against the black fabric, then that one is my choice. And then what else we got? Got this random reel of thread. What is it? I don't know. I think I got it free with something. But so that's a kind of, it's quite a nice colour actually. It's kind of grey brown. And then this one, another of the King Tut Superior ones, so a variegated cream, of which I'll be doing some of the shading around to show some of the structure, the bones and muscles. And then I've not really got an ideal pink looking through my box, so I'm going to do a bit of a mixture. So this is another one of the King Tut one in a pale pink, and I'm going to use this one as well, I think, which is a kind of peachy colour, just to help tone down the pinkiness, because I think that might be a little bit too pink really. Okay, so let's put those to one side and grab our iron. So if any of you are wondering on my white, by the way, I'm not actually using just plain white cotton. This is undyed, I think it's called Prosima, but it's basically what you use to do batiks with. So it's got that close weave that batiks have, but it's white, because it's very difficult to get. So have you ever tried looking? But it's very difficult to get white batik. So this is my sand food. So I'm just going to trim off some of this extra. And yes, I am being naughty and I am cutting my freezer paper with material scissors, but I don't care. Okay, so with our iron, I've got my iron on cotton, I've got the steam on, so just everyday ironing setting really. And we're going to make sure that the shiny side is down because that's got wax on it, that shine, that's what the shine is. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a bit of a press. And I'm going to trim it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim out the whole cow. So let me just... One of the reasons I like cutting with the material scissors, because what you can do if you want, and you're worried about the health of your puzzle scissors, is you can cut out this shape first with paper scissors and then iron that on. But if you cut it this way, it's quite, this is really stiff at the minute, and it's lovely to cut out. It's not going to flop around or anything, so you can get a really close line. So we're just going to go around and do take care, because the advantage of embroidering these kind of shapes where it's like this is against doing like little robins or hearts or flowers or anything. This is a nice big shape, and so we're going to be doing a lot of the detail, and it's going to be done by adding in embroidery. So the closer you can get to the original drawing, the easier it is, because I've got things marked in here, like this little bump here will help you position in the eye on the other side, and so if you miss that bit out, you'll look a bit wonky. So I'm going to cut out the whole shape, horns, this curly hair here. I'm not sure he or she will say it. The curly hair. So we just keep on going round. And I like to cut out a base to start off with of the fabric, which is you've got the most of. And white's often a good one to do as the base, because if you try and layer white on something else, you do tend to be able to see through it a little bit. So there we go. And if you want, you can go, you don't have to worry too much about these edges. We're going to be trimming them down, but you could leave them a bit bigger if you want. I'll chuck those in the thread pot. Okay, so we're going to very carefully peel him off now. And care not to fray the edges as we go. Okay. And just give them a little bit of a press. There we go, one cow shape, looking very nice. Okay, so we'll just stick that there. So next we're going to do some of these other shapes, so I'm just going to trim it down a little bit so we don't waste too much. Which you can be doing with your paper scissors. We got that one there. What else have we got? So we've got a bit around the eye. And don't throw away the horns back, since we're going to want those in a second. And the ear. Let's let them go, and I'll just leave my horns there. So we find our black fabric. Okay, so position these on. Go pretty closely if we want. Let's get the rough shapes out. Now this one, there isn't really anywhere to position this, so we're just going to have to use our best judgment to place it, really. A lot of the time you can kind of line it up against the edge of your base one. On this one it's just floating, a big floating splodge of colour, so just look at the pattern and do your best to place it, really. Yeah. fold there whilst I was doing that. I mean, this doesn't really matter too much, it's only a splodge. One splodge position is as good as another one. So I've got my pattern to the side of me here, and so I'm just going to lay him on like that. It's not quite up to his ears, and it's not quite down to the bottom. Okay, like that. And his ear next. Some of these details are a little bit small, so just do your best really. And we'll probably be adding some embroidered bits around it anyway, so yours isn't quite the same, it probably doesn't matter too much. There we go, so that's going to go like that. There, he's got an ear now. Next, so we've got the other splodge round here, around the eye. So I quite like doing these kind of embroideries where it's a big area. You know, when you've been doing an awful lot of fiddly ones. Last night I was cutting out angels. They all had tiny little paws. They were dog angels, but they all had tiny little pieces. So it's quite nice to do something with a bit bigger area. Let's have a look. So that goes that way round. And this goes nearly up to the horn. Lost his nose there. Press that. I'm just pointing down maybe a bit more. Oh. We can always hold. Oh no, we can't. So we can hold our tracing up to it, but we can't because we've just cut it into little pieces. Right, was there any more? There was another piece. I've just screwed mine up. So don't do that. Don't screw it up before you've got all your bits off. That's going to go up in the corner there. Right, now I can put these bits in a bit. So just the horns to go, and then we should have a nice looking cow. So I'm going to find the cream next. So I need a tiny little bit of this one. I use all these pretty fabrics with all these different shades and everything in, and I have to admit I don't fussy. You can see that I don't fussy cut. Everyone kind of assumes that I fussy cut, but I really don't. Generally I try and use the minimum amount of fabric that I can get away with, so I'm trying to be pretty efficient. And I don't worry about it. I find the more that I worry about fussy cutting, the worse the placement seems to come out. So I find when I just don't think about, oh, I've just thrown that other horn away. Right. The less I think about it, the better it seems to come out. So, which is good. Right, so let's move our cow down here. So we've got these horns out next. Put them on. Just be careful when you're taking off these small pieces because it's quite easy to fray them. Right, where does that one go then? That one go on there? Let that one out. I think that's that one. What is it? There, the one up. Can't work it out. Not entirely sure that's the right one. We'll see in a minute. I think I've got them the wrong way around. I think that's this one. Yep. So that means that must be this one. There we go. So that's our cutting out done. So next we just need to cut our background out. So, wasn't that green? Was it? Oh, I don't know green. We'll cut our background out, and so you want to do it to, well, the finished piece is 8 by 6 inches, just slightly smaller, so you want it at least that, and we also want some stabiliser. quick word about stabilisers. So once you cut your background fabric out, so we've got our green here. So you want to cut that out 8 by 6 inches or a little bit bigger. You also want to cut the same size out in stabiliser. I like this one, so this is Madeira Premium Super Strong. It's a cutaway one. It's a bit like sewing on a very thin felt. It's lovely to sew on. You can also use a papery one which they tear. I can't see any to reach here, but they're like tearing paper, so they're a little bit harder to sew on because it basically kind of perforates as you sew, but it's much easier to get rid of it afterwards if you need to. For these kind of little wall hangings, I just leave it in, so I'd prefer to use this because it's easiest to use. Right, so over to the machine. So I've got my machine threaded up in that mid brown with a full bobbin on the bottom so that we don't run out part way. You can see I've got my free motion foot on. So this one's what mine looks like. So if I can see that there. A bit fluffy. My machine is always fluffy. So they either work by a spring, so sometimes it's a sprung needle or sometimes it's a bit like this with a spring on it. Or mine works by a kind of cam action, so this bit here acts as a spring, so it presses down on that there, so it just gives a little bit. So they all mount in different ways, so you have to have a look on how yours goes. On mine, make sure that that hook is over the top of the, I'm not sure if you can see it in here, but no you can't, but it needs to be over the top where the, the little screw where the needle fastens on. Make sure it's hooked over the top of that and not underneath, otherwise it'll squash and break this arm. Okay, so whatever your foot looks like, you need to get that on. Need to get the feed dogs down. So on mine that's up, so there's a switch on the front of my machine which I just slide across. On mine it's kind of marked so that there's either a kind of a zigzag, which is with them up, or a hatched area which is kind of for darning, so you just put it across to that. My machine's also got one under here, so there's a switch by the bottom bobbin which you can use. It depends on what your machine's like, but on mine it's got an actual free motion setting, so I just put it on that. Otherwise, if yours hasn't, then you'll have to, if you look up on either in your manual or online and see, but you might need to set your stitch length to 0. But mine, I just set it there. And something else, you would be ideal if you can manage to stop when you finish sewing at any point with your needle down. So my machine's actually got a setting, and you can make it so that unless you kind of override it, you can stop with a needle. I've got it on low, and it just sets it so it's kind of it's like that. It just kind of catches it. So if you haven't got that, you're going to need some foot control to try and make sure that you do it, but it just stops things going everywhere. So let's get our pattern. So we're just going to get those ends out of the way. So make sure you've got a pair of scissors somewhere, which I've lost my scissors. Where are my scissors? There they are. So scissors to hand. I like to put my pattern to the side of my machine here so that I can see what I'm doing and I don't forget. Okay then, so first off we're just going to get everything sewn down, so we're going to go around all the edges of everything. So let me see if I can make it so that I don't get my fingers in the way for you. Okay, so I'm going to start off with these around these little fiddly bits so that we don't accidentally drop them off the machine whilst we're sewing, which is always a risk. Okay, so I like to hand crank my needle down. Okay, tension looks good. Right, off we go. So we're going to go stitching along the top of this ear here, and we're going to try and sew within 1 millimetre of the outside edge. If you miss a bit, just keep on going, don't go back. Okay, because all that happens when you go back is you get an extra couple of lines of stitching which you haven't got anywhere else, and it's like as if someone's pointing a big finger going, I made a mistake, look at me. So don't do that. Okay, so just carry on. We will go round a second time, and if you've missed, we'll catch you there. And I will miss, don't worry, it won't just be you, I'll do it as well. Okay, I think that was my phone binging there. Right, off we go. Okay, so I like to get rid of the end early on, because otherwise you end up sewing over it a few times and then it's very difficult to get out. And because you've got that kind of this loopy bit, it really can get caught up quite a long way. So it's best to just, as soon as you've got it so that it's sewn down enough that you're not going to accidentally undo your needle or anything, then we'll get it off. So we've sewn down that ear, so I'm going to go across now. I'm sewing quite slowly here because I've got the tripods in the way of me foot pedal, so I'm just going to move my foot pedal so I can get a bit of grip with my slipper. Right, for another go. Better. Right, I've just gone down and gone all the way round this horn, so I'm going to go up the second time. So now when I get here, I'm going to stop and I'm going to carry on going round. Okay, so the next bit is around the hair, so we're not going to worry about putting the extra lines in at this point, but you want to, around here, if you can make it wibbly, because there's got a little crown of curly hair at the top, so we want to try and replicate that as best we can. Okay, so feel free to add in extra wibbles than are cut out here. Okay, like that. Now I'm going to go back up to the other horn. And I'm just going to stitch that other side down just so it doesn't go wandering. Okay, so next bit we're going to come down here and down to the nose. Make sure you pay attention on here, because this is the kind of hump of the eye socket. So you're kind of suggesting where that eye is on the other side, so try and be as accurate as you can. Oh, something I should point out here, where possible, try and stitch on the right hand side of your embroidery first. That's why I've gone this way, because which it does tend to mean that sometimes these pieces on the left hand side might fall off, but when you go, if you start stitching on the left hand side, you're going to hit the arm of the machine, unless you've got a very big arm on your machine, and then it all wrinkles up, so it's better to get this side sewn down first and then the other. Okay, so when we get to the bottom, I've got this kind of nostril area, so I'll just put a little wibbly-inness in here just to kind of suggest that a bit of a mouth. I don't tend to draw in mouths. I find as soon as you draw in a mouth, it just looks silly. You can never get it right. It looks just like you're going to have some like frantically grinning cow. So I tend to miss them out. I concentrate on nose and eyes and leave the mouth to the suggestion kind of thing. So right. Now we're not going to worry about doing some of this mouth detail or nose detail, so we're just going to go past. So next time we come round we'll be doing that, but just this time we're going to go round just following the jawline. Okay, now on the bigger areas, just occasionally just pat down just to make sure that you're not wrinkling anything up. Okay, and I'm just going to hand crank the needle a little bit. Oh, actually no, sorry, I don't want to do this. Just lift the foot up a little bit and I'm going to turn this, so just, I mean, to be honest, I think we're going to be cutting this off, so it probably doesn't matter really, but I just want to be able to get a good run to be able to do this straight line at the bottom. So I'm just making sure it's all nice and flat. And then off we go down the bottom. Veered a little bit away from the edge there, but as I say, I'm pretty sure that we're going to be cutting that off anyway. So I've just gone into the black bit there, so I might as well go round this shape and sew it down while we're Okay, so we've just got to go, so you can see, well actually you can't see, but now while I'm over this side, my material is actually against the arm of the machine, so you ought to watch out that, because it gives a little bit of resistance so when you're trying to move, but we're going to be moving it to the left now anyway, so alright. Okay, so we're going to go down the back now, and there is a slight swell and dip, so make sure you get those in. Okay, up to the ear, and we're not going to worry about getting that shape of that ear in just yet. Move that bit out of the way. We're just going to go back and get the black bit sewn down, so up to the top of his ear. Okay, and we're going to go around and whiz around that ear shape. Right, so next bit, we're going to start putting in some of the shapes. I was just wondering whether we should let's get those bits down first, but don't think we will. Okay, so we need to get in the shape of the ear. So you're going to need to we'll go up to the tip of the ear first. So this is our second go. So if you've missed anywhere, this is the time to make sure you sew it down. Okay, and so we're going to draw in this ear now. So we're going to be coming down here and then down to this bit, and we'll do a little thing. So you're going to get, actually we're pretty much going to follow it. So we're just going to be stitching along here. So I'll show you, it's easier. Okay, so just like that, and we're going to give a little bit of kind of hairy detail at this point. So we're just going to wiggle around a bit. Don't worry too much. Like that. We're going to be doing some more of that with different colours, but that just gives the start of it for us. Okay, so back up again. Okay, and that's the start of everything. We're going to go down this one, back up to the horn. Okay, so that's all nicely sewn down. Okay, so I think what we're going to do at this point actually is we're going to come down here and sew this bit on. So, because it's almost attached to the horn anyway. And basically, this is just a colour patch, so there's no reason that it's going to be nice and smooth, so just go along however you fancy really. Stitch all the way around. I'm just going to make sure we're getting this nice and flat. If you do get it so that you haven't sewn it as flat as you want, just smooth it out best you can, sew over the tuck, and when we do the embroidered bits we'll add a little bit and we'll try and hide it. That's how I do it. Okay, first way round, so we're going to go a second time. Okay, and I'm going to go back and sew that horn in. Right, this time around here, I'm still not going to put in too much in the hairs, but I'm going to go pull those kind of curve lines down a little bit. So wherever I've got a dip, I'm going to exaggerate it a bit, but I'm not going to go all the way down and put the curls in because I'll do that with a different colour thread. Okay, so back down to the nose. I don't think there's anything we have to do around the nose because we'll add the nostril in later. And around here. And don't worry too much about sewing exactly in the right place because you can kind of suggest there's a bit more going on by missing it a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go to the bottom. Okay, yeah, here we're going to put in a little turn up there. And then again, we're going to just suggest a line of the jaw, and then back here. Now on this kind of stuff, you know, if you want, you can trace it, draw in a little a light pencil line to give you some idea of where to follow, or you can just wing it. I tend to go for that, and because if you get it in the wrong place, we can get a lighter colour thread. It is difficult to undo free motion embroidery. You can do it, but it's not very easy to do. So what I tend to do is if I've got this, so I was like, ooh, that's in the wrong place. What I'd probably do is I'd draw it in the right place, and then I would go over the one I did wrong with a lighter colour thread and effectively try and hide it. Okay. So the next one, we're just going to do some of this detail up here. So we just need to sew in a bit of a cow jaw. Like that. Okay. So I'll come back down now. And one of the reasons I'm turning here is if I keep on going, I'm going to hit the arm, and then it'll make bumps and more difficult to do. So I've turned it this way so that I'm in no danger of doing that. So we're going to whiz down here, all around. Oh, actually, we've got a tiny bit of a shape here at the bottom, so we'll just go